This is my model of the human brain. It is a side profiled view. So this is what it would look like if it was removed intact and looked at from the side. This is all six main parts of a brain. It's fairly simplistic, but it has all six parts. So it has down here the spinal cord, which goes up and connects to the temporal lobe, and right beside the cerebellum. It has the occipital lobe at the back, and here we have the frontal lobe obviously at the front, and then the parietal lobe in the middle. It has all six parts of the brain, and the spinal cord can also be known as the brain stem. And each part of the brain is responsible for different things. So the parietal lobe, this one in green, this is sort of sensations and knowing your rights from your lefts. The frontal lobe is more of your emotions and your judgments. Your temporal lobe, that's your understanding and sort of your memory, and this is the temporal lobe, and that's sort of your memory. You have the occipital lobe, which is more for vision and sort of perception of color. Your cerebellum, that's for sort of your balance and your posture and sort of all your coordination. And then your brainstem, or spinal cord, as it's labeled here, is mainly for your other areas of your body. So like sort of body, like things that happen within the body, such as like digestion or like swallowing, stuff like that. This is a fairly simplistic view of the brain, but it has everything of the brain. And some interesting facts about the brain that I learned while doing this was that the average human brain, when in an adult or late teen, weighs around 1.36 kilograms or 1.4 kilograms, depending on where you do the research. And the average human worldwide body weighs 62 kilograms, which means that the brain weighs around 2.19% of the entire human body, and it controls 100% of it. So I found that quite interesting, because for something so small, and in comparison to the rest of our body, it controls everything. Like me talking about this video right now, and talking about this, and talking about how the brain is so small is happening, and it's being said from my brain. So that's quite interesting. And also another thing is, in your brain that only weighs 1.4 kilograms, brain this size, not this size, this with this shape, that weighs 1.36 kilograms, has around 100 billion neurons. And to put that into context, that's around the number of stars you can see in the night sky, on a clear night sky. So if you were in the middle of nowhere with no other lights around you, maybe just a campfire, then you would see roughly around 100 billion stars, maybe even less. So to put that into perspective, it's a lot for something that only weighs 1.36 kilograms to have that many neurons flowing through it, which is also quite a fascinating fact, because it puts the power of the human brain into you can perceive now that it's actually incredibly powerful. Another thing that is quite odd for something that only weighs 2.19% of the human body is that it uses up roughly 20% of all our blood and all our oxygen within the human body. So it's quite unique that it has all this power, and it uses 20% of the blood and oxygen within the body, but only 20%. But then again, on the same token, it's 20% is quite a bit, considering the fact that it only weighs roughly 2% of the human body. So that's rather intriguing. Some questions I have about the human brain is sort of how a brain can survive certain parts being removed. So like in a lobotomy, they remove sort of part of the frontal lobe, and yet your brain, other than certain like parts of your perception and memories sort of go, but other than that, you can live perfectly fine and lead a fairly normal life. So something so sensitive and so beyond our understanding can survive even parts of it being removed is bewildering to even perceive. So it just shows how great the human brain actually is. And then another question I have, especially about my brain, is how a neurodivergency is formed. So neurodivergency, in simple terms, is sort of like ADHD or bipolar, sort of things along that line that are to do with sort of brain, and it's rather quite interesting to me, and I don't understand it, but I think it would be quite interesting to figure out. And it's just a question I had that relates specifically to me, being someone with ADHD. This is very intriguing as well, because it just shows that every brain is different as well, because every brain is the same and different at the same time. Every person's brain sort of looks in this shape and has around 100 billion neurons, weighs about the same, and yet our brains work completely differently. So it's rather miraculous how everyone's brain at a base level looks exactly like this, but everyone's brain functions completely differently. And then something that I've figured out with my brain in terms of training it would be word repetition. And if you repeat a word or phrase enough, it sort of gets ingrained into your daily conversation, and it happens as can be seen with England and America. As in England, they call them crisps, whereas in America it's chips. But also on the same token, if you do it enough, the word's meaning diminishes, which is quite interesting. Your brain sort of builds a tolerance to the meaning of the word, if that makes sense, and it sort of lessens the meaning, which can be seen with the term "I love you," whereas for some people it's very big to say that, and other people it's very common to say that, and for the people that say it very commonly, it's sort of just it doesn't hold a different meaning. They still love you, but it could be used as a more frequented term, and it has, for some people, when they hear it, it's less of a big thing to be said. So that's something I've figured out with my brain in terms of training it, is with word repetition you can both have something become frequented in your vocabulary, but also something where its meaning diminishes. But yes, that's my recyclable brain, and it's pretty simple, but it has all the key points. Thank you.